Hey everyone, it's Triple Mango Threat or Ashley, and today we're going over Torbran, Thane of Red Fell. Each card in the deck will be less than a quarter except Torbran. Right now our commander is 77 cents, so that will be the only card over our quarter budget. So let's jump right into the deck. So Torbran, Thane of Red Fell costs 1 red, and it's a 2/4 Dwarf Noble. If a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent, or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. So what this deck wants to do is really take advantage of dealing 2 additional damage to our opponents. But my main concern is finding ways to draw cards with such a low budget, and hopefully that will not stop us. Also, mana rocks are not going to be the best at this price, but let's keep going. Without the basic lands price included, the deck is actually $17.45, and that is super cool. So let's talk about how we can draw cards with this deck. We have Act on Impulse, Commune with Lava, and Light Up the Stage. All of these exile our cards from the top of our library, and we're able to play them until end of turn. Of course, the downside is having them exiled, but that's if we don't play them. And card draw in red is already tough, and imagine adding a 25-cent per card limit on top of that. Outpost Siege is a great card for any red deck struggling with card draw. This is a 25-cent card and hopefully will stay that way. This exiles the top card of our library at our upkeep, so similar to drawing an additional card with the color blue. Dream Pillager is a very budget-friendly card, but also the mana cost is super expensive for 5 red. But the payout is really good. We exile cards for how much damage that creature has dealt, which is normally 4, but with our commander can be 6. So that means 6 cards we exile from the top of our library, and we're dealing 6 to an opponent, which is not to be taken lightly. Sir Kara the Bold. This is probably my favorite way to draw cards. Whenever Kara or an instant or sorcery deals damage to an opponent, we exile the top card of our library, and we can play that until end of turn. It can also be tapped to deal 1 damage to any target, which is actually 3 with our commander. Some not so exciting ways to draw cards is with Arcane Encyclopedia. It costs 3 and we have to pay 3 to draw a card. I know it's not amazing, but like I said, card draw is scarce, and at this budget we're really narrowing down our options. A card that does work in the deck is Avarice Amulet. This is a basic card, but it lets us draw at our upkeep, and that is super helpful. It has to be equipped to a creature, and if that creature dies, an opponent gains control of this artifact, which stinks, but this is a really great option for us to start drawing cards consistently. Moving on to some neat spells that shouldn't be dealing so much damage is Shock. This normally deals 2 damage for 1 red mana, and now we're dealing 4 with our commander, which is super busted because Lightning Bolt deals 3, and that's 1 red mana. Same with Spikefield Hazard. It's a double-faced card that we can pay 1 mana to deal 1 damage to any target, but we also have a land on the other side that enters tapped. In my opinion, I think this is better than Shock. We get the option to deal 3 with our commander's help, or we can play a land. This is an amazing card in the deck with the versatility it provides. Moving on, we have cards that deal damage to all players or all opponents. We have Gutter Snipe that normally deals 2 damage to each opponent whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, so now 4 with our commander. Kessig Flame Breather deals 1 damage to each opponent whenever we cast a non-creature spell, which is awesome. That means whenever we cast an enchantment, for example, this can trigger the card to deal 3 to each opponent with Torbran. Spitfire Legak is really neat because this has landfall, so whenever we play a land, we're going to deal 3 to each opponent. 3 similar cards are Lightning Rig Crew, Lobber Crew, and Spear Spewer. Normally these are okay in the right deck, but Torbran makes these creatures super good by dealing each opponent 3 instead of the normal 1 damage. Removal in the deck is pretty simple. We have Abrade and Smash to Smithereens for the artifact removal. All of the other cards are dealing damage to creatures, so a lot of board wipes for the deck. Blazing Volley for 1 red mana deals 1 to each creature our opponents control. I have never played this card before this deck, but it deals 3 damage to each creature with our commander. This is super good. Normally you have to pay 4 mana to give each creature -4/-4 in a black deck, so paying 1 red mana to deal 3 is awesome. The last card I want to talk about is Dwarven Shrine. It's an enchantment that says whenever a player plays a spell, it deals X damage to that player, where X is twice the number of cards in all graveyards with the same name as that spell. It's likely we're not going to have the same spell that a player casts, but with our commander, this means whenever a player plays a spell, it will deal them 2 damage because X is normally 0, and what's neat is that this will not actually deal us damage. That's because our commander says it has to be an opponent that is dealt damage, or a permanent an opponent controls, that we're dealing 2 additional damage. So for 3 mana, we have an enchantment that just says whenever a player plays a spell, they take 2. And if they happen to have a card that's already in a graveyard, any player's graveyard in fact, they'll take twice that much. So for example, if a Soul Ring is played and a Soul Ring is in someone's graveyard, that's 2 damage from this card, and an additional 2 will be dealt from our commander. That's pretty neat. Now, if you'd like to purchase this deck, I'll have a link to it in the description down below. And if you do purchase it, you help out the channel, and it doesn't cost you any extra when you do. If you'd like to become a patron, you can see your name at the end of these videos, and you get more rewards for doing so. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts about the deck, and subscribe for more Mango content. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.